Welcome to the Retirement Evolved podcast with certified financial fiduciary Adam Bruno.
Welcome back to the Retirement Evolved podcast. We are here today with a little bit of a special edition. Lauren was not able to join us today, so I thought, why not have Martha and Tom on with me? Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Wow. And you know what happened? What was really funny about this was I just kind of said, Lauren's not feeling well. Here, you guys are up. So I brought them in here under protest. But you know what? They do a really good job. We've got some very good knowledge to drop on you today. As always, we are Evolution Retirement Services and Evolution Wealth Management. Hopefully the last stop you ever need in retirement. And let's just get it started today with some news of this week in history. So number one, in 2005, a major capital punishment case, the U.S. Supreme Court read that it was unconstitutional to execute convicts who were under the age of 18 at the time of their crimes. A little bit of history there. Now, how about some entertainment? In 1994, a day that is rude in history, Justin Bieber, a Canadian singer noted for his fresh face, good looks, and appealing pop songs, was born in Stratford, Ontario. In 1961, the Peace Corps was established by U.S. President John F. Kennedy by means of the Peace Corps Act. And after 5 years of construction in 1936, the Hoover Dam on the Colorado River at the Arizona-Nevada border was completed. It is the highest concrete arch dam in the United States. And also, 1875, Republicans in the U.S. Congress passed the last of the Force Acts, which protected the constitutional rights of African Americans during Reconstruction. So that's a little bit of history. What was that, Martha? What?
Say what?
Hey, you can do it. See, you were worried about that. It sounded great. Give it to us, Martha. Give it to us. What do you got?
So today we are talking about wieners and kangaroos. So to start off, we have some news from Philadelphia. For more than a quarter century, Philly fans considered Dollar Hot Dog Night among the best ballpark promotions. But the team has now decided it was the WURST, the worst.
The worst, bada bing. Okay, got it.
A statement from the team said the change was made based on the organization's ongoing commitment to provide positive experience for all fans in attendance. Armed with projectile frankfurters, some unruly Phillies fans began chucking their favorite Hatfield meat during the game last year. Can you imagine that?
They were chucking wieners. Okay.
And the dogs soared like cans of corn throughout the stands and onto the field. The demand for the discount dogs along led with clogged lanes in, if not arteries, on the concourse, and the cramped spaces led to security and safety concerns. Wow, what a game.
Who needs snowballs, right?
That's right.
Philly fans are the worst. I apologize if you're a Philly fan, but have you ever been to one of your events? Oh, my God. They threw snowballs at Santa Claus once. Good thing it wasn't Dollar Hot Dog Night that day, right? We're slapping Santa in the face with all these wieners. Okay.
And then lastly, since we are in Florida, we have some Tampa, Florida news here where a kangaroo was spotted. So a wayward kangaroo was corralled safely by sheriff deputies Thursday after it was spotted hopping around the pool area of a Florida apartment complex. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office released a video and still photos of the kangaroo, including some footage shot from a helicopter. The agency also released audio of a female resident of the complex calling to report it. I actually see a kangaroo. It's kind of large kangaroo. The unidentified woman says, we got him closed in the pool gate area. Oh, man.
Oh, we had to throw in a little bit of Florida for our Say What episode, right? Seems like whenever you get the crazy news, it's Florida, right? And this, so the kangaroo was okay then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was reunited with its owner.
That's
weird right. Weird that somebody just randomly owns a kangaroo. Hey, you guys know that my son Austin, he's like deathly terrified of kangaroos.
Oh, wow.
So when he really ticks me off, I text him a picture of a kangaroo.
When did he meet a kangaroo?
He never did. Like, I don't get it either. He just thinks that they're really creepy and scary. So I'll send him one of like a kangaroo boxing or something, and he'll say, stop, and he'll get really upset. It's weird. It's kind of a weird. Do they have fears of kangaroos?
Kangaroos are actually pretty mean.
I get that, but is there an actual like medical diagnosis for a fear of a kangaroo? We got to research that for the next episode. Anyway, what's really interesting, and of course, you can go to our website, taxfreefortmyers.com, download a copy of my most recent book, They Lied, The Real Cost of Retirement. We don't sell those. We give them away. My mom's the only one who paid full price for that book, which I tried to stop her, but you know how moms are, especially Italian moms. And then you can also go to evolutionretirementservices.com. Lauren's still working on the page. You don't see anything that says under construction, but you might see a different look when you go there as we continue to update it, try and, any business grows, there's more and more information that needs to be on pages and things like that. Speaking of growing businesses, not only did we end up getting Martha, I feel like the most coveted free agent in the financial world as soon as she stepped away from Chase. But Tom also joined the team. Tom, it's really interesting when we did our workshop the other night. We had that slide up there that I haven't used in a long time, but all of a sudden with what we're facing with tax changes, it really made a lot of sense to me. And basically what it came down to is if families have $500,000 in their IRA or whatever you might have in your IRA out there listening right now, it really isn't that amount, and you had a really good insight as to why that is.
Yes, basically you've done all the right things. You've grown your IRA, worked hard, saved, invested in all that, and it's your money. But as soon as you want to get your money, Uncle Sam is going to put his hand out and want his share. Ugh. So in this case, if you were to take all 500,000, it's going to bump everybody up into one of the two highest tax brackets, which right now is currently 35 and 37%.
So that's the highest right now.
That's the highest right now, which is historically low.
I still think it's historically low. I compare it to, Kelly likes to shop every once in a while. And I put my air quotes around every once in a while. I'm sorry, honey. Don't get mad at me. But what she loves to do is she loves Macy's, right? She loves to go to Macy's. So inevitably what ends up happening is we'll be going to an event or something and she'll need a new dress and she'll say, hey, let's go to Macy's. It usually happens like when the football games are going on and I have to leave the game and go over to Macy's because she's my wife and I love her. So we go over to Macy's and she goes right to the back of Macy's to like the discount section, the 25 and 40% off. So, and I'm going somewhere with this. Stay with me. So we go there. She tries the dress on. She asks how it looks, and I'm no dummy. I say, honey, it looks great, but is it a little bit big on you? So I've got my brownie points that I score there. And so she says, yeah, I really love it, but I don't know. And then, of course, we have to go to the other side of the mall to go to Dillard's and all that fun stuff. And we make a little afternoon of it. I definitely get my weenies. I get those little pretzel wrapped weenies at Auntie Anne's or whatever it is, with some mustard. That's right. I'm sorry. I'm hungry.
No, I can't.
So anyways, we get home and she still hasn't had a dress. She's like, oh, I'm going to think about it. So we go home. And then the next day she wakes up in the morning and she thought about it and she says, I really love that dress. That's the one. So back in the car we go and I miss another football game, but I love my wife. And we get to the mall and we go to the back to pick it out. And we pick it up and I'm ready to go out with it. And she said, oh, wait a minute. And I said, what's wrong? Well, now the 25 to 40% discount is gone because we waited too long, right? So that's always such a pain in the butt. And I love my wife. I buy it anyway, even though I do so under strong protest from her because she loves a good deal. But we still get the dress. My point is that's the way tax rates are right now. 35 and 37% might seem high. But when we go back through history, and Tom, you know this, we go back through history, tax rates were much higher. 35 to 37% was the norm. So it's like right now we've got the 40% sign up, and the longer we wait, the chances of the sale going away are gone. I mean, would you agree with that analogy?
Yes, 100%. And, as you and I both know, in 2026, they're going back up. So that 35, 37%, the 37% is going back up to the 2016 rate of 39.6. So let's call it
we're going
40%.
So 40. So we're going from 37 to 40. And then how are the other brackets affected?
Many people are in the 22% bracket. That's going to 25. The 24 is going to 28. The 12 is going to 15.
Oh, so right now you can say, honestly, we're getting 3 to 4% off of our taxes right now.
Absolutely. And so that'll be for 24 and 25. So in 26, unless something changes, those will be the rates. So.
And you talked about this too, and I talk about it all the time. when can we ever depend on politicians in this day and age to come together and decide on anything? So in my mind, we'll probably be stuck in this 2026 rate for quite a while. What do you think, Martha? You think this this whole idea of you're back in the back seeing everything that comes through, seeing all the families that we work with, if you added up all of the money that we manage, which is somewhere in that $88 million range right now, and you said you can save 3%. I mean, that's a lot of money over time, right? And even with our families, you know, if they have, our average family size is somewhere in the 1 to 1.2 million range. And of course we have some families where it's lower, but even 500,000, saving 3 or 4% on 500,000, that's a lot of money.
Absolutely. And what we like to do is be very proactive. No one likes to think about taxes, but we like to plan it, multi-years out. So not just this year, but we know rates are going up in 26. So we take steps now to alleviate that.
Which actually makes more work for Martha, which should make her more mad at us. But I mean, you really enjoy, and we can joke, but you enjoy the client service part of this job.
I love the clients. Anything to do to help our clients is one of my favorite things. And you're talking about money savings, that 3%, that 4%, anything that we can do to save our clients money for their futures is number one.
And would you say that, you deal with a lot more communication with them as the process goes, because obviously there's paperwork, there's processing. Would you say that most people probably didn't even realize how much they were going to save or where they were at, with your experience? A
lot of times. I think in most cases in general, people are living their lives. They're not really thinking about the future and how taxes are going to get raised, unless it's really brought to their mind and they have to think about it. So when we bring these things up, it just makes it a point and see, wow, why won't we save this money now?
Right. And I think an important part of that is you look at this tax, taxes, you look at Medicare planning, you look at all these things. I mean, how surprising was it? And really, it's for both of you, right? Before you came here, the focus of everything was the money and the investments and all that fun stuff. But now that you've seen it, especially you, Martha, I mean, how surprising was it to see so many families that never even thought about their goals? They were just so focused on the investments. I mean, what's your biggest takeaway from that?
I really like the fact here that we do a really holistic view of our clients. It is not just, hey, we're going to make sure your investments make XYZ to make sure you have a retirement, and not think about the taxes and not think about your estate planning or your beneficiaries or your family or even your lifestyle.
Right.
They're just, hey, yep, here's your percentage for the year. Looks good. Good to go. Yeah. We really have a really good view of our clients, and we get to know them and what's important to them and their goals, and we adjust everything to go with that.
Right. And it's funny, we're using the word client. It almost like we cringe every time we have to say client, because we don't have clients, we have families, but we have to differentiate when we're on the podcast talking to all of you exactly what we're talking about. So for the purpose of the podcast, we use the word client, and I see you don't see everybody right now, but I see all of us just flinching when we say that word, right? Because it is a family affair. And I think the number one thing, Tom, and you could speak to this a little bit, you came from a world with your own registered investment advisory firm where you were killing yourself working on the investment part of things, and you didn't have a chance to necessarily talk to people about their goals. So you came from a world where the expectation was just everybody's in front of you. And I think to that point, most families don't think about goals. They think about, their investments and what's in front of them. I mean, what kind of difference have you seen, not just, for families, but for yourself and your growth as we've worked as a team here? Yes,
it's like Martha said, a much more holistic view. And we focus on what our families get to keep, not just make.
Right.
As an example, the advanced tax planning can make a good investment a great investment. It can make a good retirement a great retirement. And that's what we focus on. And including a good retirement is, I don't know how many times I hear Adam tell our family, spend more, enjoy more, fly first class, take that extra, excursion on your cruise and, things like that. So it's, tremendous to be able to see people fully living and enjoying their retirement.
And how many times do you see a financial advisor say, spend more of your money?
And how freaked out were you guys the first time you heard me doing that? Because I remember I'm like, oh boy, there's going to be some big eyes in this room. I didn't warn anybody the first time they were in a meeting with me. Martha, Tom, they're in meetings with me, and I'm telling people to spend more, and they're just kind of looking over at me like, really? Like, you could tell them that? I'm like, yes, you could tell them that. Because if they don't spend it, their kids are going to get it. And what do I say all the time? There is no way their kids are going to care about as much about that money as they did, because they gave up so much to save it, to get it ready, to have it. And now they're just going to leave it as a legacy, right? And I'm sorry, if you really want to see what your kids are like, if you think they're any different from anybody else receiving millions of dollars, put $1 million in the room on a table in between all the kids, leave the room and lock the door, and tell me how that turns out for you, right? We say it all the time. You know, F doesn't stand for finances. It stands for Ferrari when you're leaving a lot of money to certain people. So it's just, it's a whole different way of thinking. But, you know, the interesting part about this is we have the right team in my mind, because Martha and Tom, you guys weren't afraid to talk about that. Once you heard me open up the floodgates, it was like, wow. So people can actually spend money. We don't have to be a firm where we're just accumulating and stockpiling their money for them. Because again, what's the point? What happens if they don't spend it?
I have to add to that. In the banking world, we used to have a joke, because most people who would get an inheritance, we would bet on it, because we knew the statistics were about 8 months and that money was gone.
Gone, right? Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so much time of saving that person did, and then now just given, it's blown away within eight months.
Well, both of you could probably admit that there's just no balance. It's either one way or the other. And that's what makes it so hard. You know, the balance part of it. Our families, because they've had that success, they've accumulated millions of dollars, or however much they've accumulated. They've done it by following a process. So they're on the complete opposite side, where they don't want to spend any money. And then they might have kids or family members that are on the other opposite side of, yeah, let's spend it all. I could finally get that car. I could finally get that boat, whatever it might be, right? So in my mind, and I don't know, you two can talk about this a little bit more. In my mind, there's just no balance anymore. And it's just, it's not balanced out.
Yeah, and what I love about our process is we show them the money year by year by year, which gives them the confidence to enjoy it.
Right. And you talk about confidence. Confidence is a great word there, because most of our families have been institutionalized to save. And you talk to them about spending money, and you could just see the fear all of a sudden on their face. Like they get really anxious about that. And it's very uncomfortable, because when you've done something 30 or 40 years the same way, you know, how many times have you heard me tell this story? When you do something 30 or 40 years the same way, how could you expect anything else but to be conditioned to that way? And then you introduce a new way, and it's like, whoa, that's like putting on a new pair of shoes, right? And I compare it to prisoners. Not that let's say that you're financial prisoners at this point, when you've done it 30 or 40 years. Prisoners in a regular institution, what happens when you release them back into the public, right? And they're away from the gen pop, you know, they go back into the public, and they've been so institutionalized. They still sleep in small rooms. Just because their bodies and their minds have been trained to do that. So it's a huge transition, which is why so many prisoners end up back in prison, which is why so many financial families of ours, they start to spend money. Whether they start to spend money or not, they always feel guilty, and they go back to the saving mode. You know, there's a certain comfort of seeing $1 million on your computer screen in front of your balance, right?
It's true.
I mean, let's put it this way. The way that we treat everybody is the way that we would tell our parents or our families to spend their money. You know,
yes.
I don't, you guys are the same way, I think. It's just, it's hard to get around that. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about this tax issue now that we've talked about spending money. You know, obviously, we already alluded to this. 2026, we're going back to 2016 rates. We talk about it in the workshops all the time. In 2016, the government shut down twice, and then we had another potential shutdown, and a lot of it was over the taxes, right? And they couldn't agree. So everybody put their swords away and said, you know what, let's fight in the future. They basically said for the next 10 years, we're going to keep tax rates like this. But at the end of that 10 years, and this is the important part, there's no extending. There's no saying, oh, just keep it this way. It's going back to 2016 rates, which you already alluded to were much higher. That's definitively happening. And while they're trying to decide what tax rates are going to look like moving forward from that point, the tax rates stay at 2016 rates. And the joke is always told, when do we ever expect politicians to be able to sit down and agree on anything, especially these days? Without term limits, you don't get any new blood in there. You don't get any new ideas, and everything just stays stagnant. And it's the same old thing over and over and over again. So, Martha, you know what's interesting is you've seen a completely side of this business a completely different side of this business in the banking world. Can you speak to that a little bit? When, your tax planning in the banking world is obviously a little bit different than it is in the private sector. What do you think the biggest takeaway from that is, from the banking world when we talk about taxes?
So the banking world is very regulated. They want to protect themselves against any lawsuits and et cetera. So any mention of taxes, you will always hear, talk to your CPA.
Right.
Talk to your CPA. We can't even give any input. Even recommendations are hard. We would be able to maybe give like a sheet of 3 that you could reach out to, but we could never specify one that we would like. So it's a hard topic. We could not give any tax advice.
Right. And the reason I asked you about that is, now imagine that you're one of those families that comes in and says, Martha, and you've got this great connection with them, because you do with every family you come in contact with. You have a really good connection. You have a heart for service. You do a great job. But imagine being that person now that they come in to see you. You want to help them, but you're limited in how much you can help them. You tell them to go see a CPA. The CPA tells them something. They come back to you and they say, okay, Martha, the CPA told them this. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, in the banking world, even if you know that that's not good advice, you can't tell them that. You can't tell them, you know what, I don't know if that sounds right. And even if you could, they would then have to go back to the CPA and say, my financial person said this doesn't sound right. They said we should probably try it this way. Well, go back and tell your financial person this. That's what your CPA says. And then these poor families are like ping pong balls. And we didn't even talk about, we're talking about the CPA and the investments, but now add in the estate planning mix to it, right? Now the estate planning attorney has to know things from each one of those, the CPA and the investment person. And why are all of our families paying these people individually, but they can't come to a consensus about what their life should look like and what their plan should look like? And that's the biggest takeaway, I feel like, right now in the world that we're in. There's a lot of firms out there that say, hey, call a CPA, or hey, we refer all these people to our CPA, this CPA. But our CPAs and our estate planning attorneys, we work directly with, and we show them what the process looks like. And if they can't get on board with that, then we just don't work with them. That's why it's so hard to find the right team, which is what has already been done for you out there. You have the right team. You should be able to walk in here and know exactly how taxes are going to affect you in 2026 and know what an advanced tax plan will do for you. This whole idea of Roth conversion, how many times have you heard on the commercials, right? We talk about this all the time. There's a commercial for Roth conversion, or there's an ad in the paper for Roth conversion. Nobody knows what that means. Nobody knows how beneficial that can be. And all people can do is tell you, yeah, you should do it. And advisors will tell you, yeah, just convert this much. Well, what about the tax implications? What about the Medicare implications? What about all the things that they don't talk about because they're so worried about investments?
Yeah, what I love about our approach here is our heart and our head are connected, and our left and our right hand are talking to each other constantly.
Which is saying something in this environment. You would think that that would be easy, which is how we've been able to find success. And when I was sitting at my kitchen table with Kurt and we were coming up with what we wanted things to look like, to me, those things were easy. To Kurt, he's in the weeds then trying to figure out what does that process look like. So we complement each other really well. And you've heard Kurt on this podcast before. For some reason, Kurt's podcasts always get the most downloads, and maybe it's because he doesn't talk as much, and I'm the one that's responsible for all the talking. But it's just a unique thing. I've got a question for both of you. When we came up with this idea of win by not losing, what was the first thing that came into your mind when we said that, Martha? What was your interpretation of that?
Win by not losing. Can you?
Yeah,
give me a little bit more context.
Well, when
we
talk about our families and our goal being to win by not losing, obviously
So what I see in that is that we help everybody who comes through our door.
Right.
Doesn't matter if they end up to be one of our clients or one of our families or not.
Right.
We help everybody. That's how I saw that.
Right. And even more, to take it one step further, when we talk about win by not losing, when we meet with a family, and let's say that we don't work with them, they leave with a complete snapshot of where they stand, right? Which gives them the ability to say, well, if I can just do this, then I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to lose in retirement. I can win still, because I didn't have to worry about what I thought I had to worry about was growing my money even more, because I might not have had enough. You actually do have enough as long as you hang on to it. If you go nuts and start trying to grow this thing aggressively, you're going to take that ride. that market ride, right? And Tom's looking at me with those piercing eyes right now. He loves the market. I get it, Tom, but not everybody is as educated as Tom. So your idea is absolutely correct. Like, we want families to see that you can still win by not losing. And we want families to feel like when they come in here, it doesn't matter how much money you have. What matters is that you leave knowing that you're not going to lose. Now, Tom, what did it mean for you the first time you heard that phrase?
I'm going to guess that when you said that to me the first time, you probably thought I would have the reaction I did, because yes, I was used to winning in the market and accumulating stuff like that. But now winning by not losing to me here means we don't lose to Uncle Sam.
Right.
We don't lose to inflation, to purchasing power. We don't lose by giving people investments that, like in 2022, when it went down, emotionally they feel they need to get out of the market and miss when it goes back up in 23. So it's a long-term win by not losing approach that I'm all on board with.
Yeah, and you just said it. We were talking about things that we wanted to make sure, messages that we wanted to get out there. So win by not losing to Tom, okay? Because Tom's so organized. He put all of his thoughts on paper here. So I've got it in front of me. I wanted to see how he responded.
Wow.
But it says right here, what does win by not losing focus philosophy look like? In addition to the office, not losing to taxes by taking advantage of tax planning, not losing to inflation or purchasing power by making sure we grow the right way. And by the way, to not lose to purchasing power or inflation, we're really talking about 3%. It's not a huge number, right? So, but people that are in cash right now, they're losing that 3% if they don't have some sort of growth. And the last one was not losing your mind by having a plan that protects your downside and your peace of mind. Tom, that was beautiful. Coming from somebody who is used to the market and the grind and the battle of that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's just when we reach this age of retirement, it has to look a lot different. It can't be let's take big losses and get big gains. We also talk about, 3 E's in general as a goal here. And these are Tom's 3 E's: education, encouragement, and entertainment.
And I would say I'm heavier on the first one. We have many members on the team that are heavier on the third one.
Ouch. I know who you're talking about.
No. I just meant you're well-rounded to do all 3.
And the thing is, Tom, I think of this as my education happens by entertaining, by being able to, kind of entertain families. And I'm not talking about bringing the clowns and let's sing and dance and do the pony show. I'm talking about the fact that, being able to make, pop culture references, being able to make comparisons, analogies. To me, that's entertainment in the form of storytelling. When people hear stories, they're entertained. But you are absolutely correct. Your strength comes in this idea of education. I also have a heart for education, but you also have a much bigger heart towards encouragement. And you're very passionate about making sure that you're encouraging people to look at the right things. And when you take that away from the investment world and you put it into the retirement world, look out. That's like a powder keg. That's exactly what people need in retirement. Encouraging people, don't look at the gains, look at the goals. You're looking at the wrong G, right? You're looking at gains, but you should be looking at goals, because what's that money going to do for you?
Exactly. And, as far as the encouragement goes, again, I would relate it more to, we do it in a way by actually showing them and having them be confident. And, peace of mind is priceless. And that's, what we're great at here.
And, the other thing that I like to stay away from is one of the F's here, which is the fees, right? Martha, I want to talk to you about this because you come from a different environment, but even in the banking world, where they like to slip those fees in, right? Let's talk about that for a minute, because I think people, and by the way, Martha's going to do a whole separate podcast just on banking for our family so that they know what they're looking at. They kind of know the hidden secrets when they walk into a bank so we can get the best bang for their buck. But talk about fees in the banking world itself that, most people don't know about.
There's a lot of servicing fees involved, and also monthly service fees, or maybe you just need checks, or maybe you need something. There's always these little tiny fees that just add up if you don't look at it. There's also two things in the banking world that I feel like some clients might be taken advantage of, where a banker recommends, hey, you need this Premier account for this, or you might need this to avoid some fees. But in reality, do you really need to be using those products?
That was one of the first things you told us when we met you.
That's right.
It was like they definitely wanted you to push for this biggest business banking plan. And I'm sure JP Morgan Chase wouldn't have liked that you told us the actual thing that was best for us. But you were very clear on, you guys aren't going to use any of this. You don't need to pay the fees for this. And I would challenge anybody to find a banker that will actually explain that to you, right? I mean, it's that's how they make their money. It might not seem like much to your point, but when they're doing it over millions of clients, that amounts for a lot of money for the bank. And they figure, well, we're only taking a little bit from each person, right? It's the old adage. Can you find a way to get everybody in this world to just give you $1? If you could, you'd be a multi-billionaire, right? I mean, that's just the way it works.
Yeah, you mentioned that. And once inflation started going up and right after COVID and everything, a lot of fees started changing and going up in the banking world. They had to make up some cost. There was a lot of expenses during COVID.
Of course, yeah.
That they had to make up, and the only way to do that is by fees.
But the other thing about that's interesting is they all had the opportunity to take advantage of those PPP loans or whatever they were, the payroll protection plan, whatever it was. So they basically were paid because they kept all of their employees on file. Now with a bank, did it really change that much as far as people having their money in the bank? Yeah, you probably didn't see as many people. But the reality is you just got paid for all of these people that you kept employed, right? And it wasn't just enough to keep them employed for that time period. They had a maximum of I think it was $38,000 per employee for that payroll protection plan or whatever it was, right? And I'm probably getting the lingo wrong. But the point is they were paid to keep all of you. So now, in addition to that, you see them raising fees. I liken that to like a big grocery chain like Publix or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Publix, the prices went up because they had to make up for COVID and they didn't have as many shoppers and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is, how long did we see all of those prices remain up even after COVID, to your point about the banking fees? And in our industry, I don't think we changed anything from our fee structure. We just didn't. We had families. We had one of our most successful years during COVID, by the way, because we were able to pivot and still be able to reach people to where they felt like they were involved. They felt like they were getting, and of course they felt better about it because here's somebody they can actually talk to and you can't go outside and all this other crap. We were lucky in Florida, right? But you've heard the horror stories of other states and other, to me, there's no excuse in the world why you can't mask up and put on a hazmat suit at least and be able to stand by your loved ones when they're taking their last breath. Like, that was just a horrible situation. And I got to admit, I don't think we handled it the best that we could, not just because of that situation, but as you already described, big banks, big organizations, as sad as it sounds, it appears to me that they found a way to make even more money during COVID. I mean, I don't know if you would agree with that, Tom, but
there was a decrease in business from what I saw.
Okay.
And mainly, I wouldn't say investments and banking deposits. What mainly we saw decreases was in lending and credit cards, which is a huge, huge, huge factor into banks' profitability.
Bottom line, right? Well, that makes sense. I guess I didn't really think about it from that viewpoint. Okay, so we're just about out of time. We are Evolution Retirement Services, Evolution Wealth Management, your only stop in retirement. And you guys got any final thoughts here? Martha, you got any final thoughts?
Yes, I have a few things from Lauren that she was able to slip in before she left. She wanted me to let everybody know that the 2 Ruth Chris workshops are full. They are waitlisted with 20 people each for each event. We do have a few more Broadway workshops coming up on March 20th, 21st, and 26th with Carole King musical. It will be beautiful. It's a dinner and a show, and it's for first-time attendees only.
Well, it will be beautiful, but the title of the show is actually beautiful, right?
It is.
Okay, got it. And you said Ruth Chris is already full?
It is fully packed with wait lists of 20 people on each one.
You know how I feel about Ruth Chris. You guys have to drag me kicking and screaming to do a workshop at Ruth Chris because it's just not my scene. But the part that makes me happy is that is a certain area of our town where we might not have as much. Obviously, we have a lot of podcast listeners, but the ability to get to that side of town and make sure somebody has a chance to see a workshop. Okay, I get it. Obviously my concern is always, I call them food critics. A lot of people come out for the food and stuff. And I make the joke, but I'm not really joking. Hey, listen, if it's just a dinner that you want and you responded, no problem. We'll buy you the dinner. Just don't take up a seat in the workshop, because this is what always happens. There's 20 to 30 people on the wait list every time. So I know what we're trying to do to correct that is we might be adding another night, just so that all of you are aware. If you are someone out there who's on the wait list or been waitlisted for any of our events, you'll know that the number one thing we try to do is make sure that we need to extend the event if we need to. We have to add another night. Our goal is to try and get all of you in that wanted to be at the workshop. At the very least, you're on the list first and foremost for the next event we have. So you are able to come to the next event first before we open it up to other people. And I just want to make sure we apologize for the fact that things have gotten the growth has gotten a little bit bigger with these workshops. And I think the podcast probably definitely contributed to that. So thank you for that, Martha. And don't forget, we are going to have a podcast with Martha. I don't know if she wants me on there or not yet. She's still getting used to this whole podcast thing. And me,
of course I want you.
Of course you do.
Of course.
You know how much I love to talk.
I can't leave out the entertainment.
Yes.
That's right. Well, you know how much I love to talk too. So Tom, you got any final thoughts?
Yes, it's already March. You only get one retirement, and we want to help you live it fully.
Right. I mean, every day we're dying a little bit slower, right? I mean, we're running out of time. So time is an issue. And don't let the fear of being pushy salespeople, anything like that stop you from calling in, coming in, going to a workshop. It doesn't work like that. We work with a select group of families, and we will not work with a family unless we know that we can bring them value, because you guys hear me say this all the time. My favorite number is 0, which is the number of families that we've lost over the course of doing business. So it has to be the right fit. That does not mean that you can't come in here and get the help that you need, because we're happy to do it. Every single person here has a heart for giving, has a heart for making sure that someone leaves this office receiving a high level of service. So for more information, anything else that you need, you can go to taxfreefortmyers.com, evolutionretirementservices.com. You have to spell out Fort Myers. It's tax-free, FORTMYERS.com. Also, you can email any of us, Adam@evoretire.com, Martha@evoretire.com, Tom@evoretire.com, and of course, Kurt. Kurt loves getting emails, so Kurt@evoretire.com. You can call in anytime you have questions, 239-771-8696. And until we see you, all of us, Martha, Tom, myself, the entire team at Evolution, want to wish you the best retirement possible. See you soon, everyone.
Investment advisory services are offered through Evolution Wealth Management Incorporated, an investment advisor registered with the state of Florida. Registration does not imply any level of skill or training. Evolution Wealth Management's unique CRD number is 307644. You can obtain a copy of Evolution Wealth Management's firm brochure, Form ADV Part 2A, free of charge by visiting advisorinfo.sec.gov. Evolution Wealth Management offers investment advisory services only, where it is appropriately registered or exempt from registration, and only after clients have entered into an investment advisory agreement confirming the terms of engagement and have been provided a copy of the firm's ADV Part 2A. Insurance services are provided by Evolution Retirement Services. Any guarantees mentioned are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and may be subject to restrictions, limitations, or early withdrawal fees, which vary by the issuer. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. You should consider the charges, risks, expense, and investment objectives carefully before entering a contract. This material has been prepared for informational purposes only and should not be construed as a solicitation to affect or attempt to affect either transactions in securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice. This material is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, accounting, or other financial advice. Evolution Wealth Management and Evolution Retirement Services do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors before engaging in any transaction. Evolution Wealth Management and Evolution Retirement Services are affiliated entities.